The tiny girl hesitantly made her way onto the brightly lit stage, completely unaware that one of the millionaire judges, a man with a stern face and piercing blue eyes, was actually her father, the same man who had abandoned her and her mother when she was just a baby. As she began to sing "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine," a song filled with bittersweet memories, his heart skipped a beat, a wave of emotions flooding him. Before we delve deeper into this captivating story, take a moment to leave a comment below and let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. Now, sit back, relax, and allow yourself to be swept away by this tale of fate, family, and the healing power of music. The rain relentlessly pounded against the cracked and uneven sidewalks of downtown Nashville, each individual drop striking the cardboard box that 7-year-old Madison Rivers had transformed into her makeshift stage. The rhythmic drumming of the rain created an oddly fitting soundtrack to her performance. Her small, yet surprisingly powerful voice rose above the cacophony of rushing cars and hurried footsteps, its purity and haunting quality drifting through the gray, overcast afternoon air like a beacon of hope. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine," she sang, her tiny hands carefully cradling a battered acoustic guitar that seemed almost as big as she was. The instrument, worn smooth by years of use, had once belonged to her mother, a time when Sarah Rivers still clung to dreams of her own, dreams that life had slowly chipped away at. Passers-by, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and sympathy, dropped coins and the occasional dollar bill into the worn baseball cap that lay at Madison's feet. Some were moved by pity, others genuinely touched by the raw talent that emanated from such a small frame. But Madison wasn't singing for their sympathy or their spare change. Every note she sang, every carefully chosen word, was sung for a single, pressing reason: the ever-growing stack of medical bills that seemed to multiply each day on their kitchen table, a constant reminder of the battle her mother was fighting. "Please don't take my sunshine away," she continued, her voice cracking slightly as exhaustion began to creep in. She had been here since dawn, braving the relentless rain and the biting autumn chill that was seeping through her thin, threadbare jacket. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Not when Mama desperately needed her medicine that was becoming increasingly expensive. Not when the doctors kept using words like urgent and immediate treatment required, words that sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, a well-dressed woman, her face etched with concern and compassion, stopped in front of Madison, tears streaming down her cheeks as she listened to the heartfelt performance. "Honey, how old are you?" she asked gently, her voice thick with emotion, as she placed a crisp $20 bill into the cap. "7, Mom," Madison replied, offering a smile that seemed too mature, too knowing for her young age. "My mama's real sick, and the doctors say she needs an operation. I'm going to sing until I have enough money to make her better." The woman's heart ached. She imagined her own daughter in that position, and the thought was unbearable. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Madison Rivers. And I'm going to be famous someday so I can take care of Mama forever." Her words, spoken with unwavering conviction, carried a determination that made the woman believe every single syllable. That's when Madison noticed the colorful flyer that the woman had inadvertently dropped on the wet sidewalk. "America's Got Dreams. Open auditions next week. The biggest talent show in the country, with a grand prize of $1 million. As the woman walked away, lost in her own thoughts, Madison picked up the soggy paper, her eyes widening in disbelief. $1 million. That was more money than she could ever dream of earning singing on street corners. That was enough to save Mama. That evening, back in their cramped one-bedroom apartment, a space that felt smaller and colder than usual, Madison found her mother collapsed on the bathroom floor, her face pale and gaunt, her body trembling uncontrollably. "Mama!" she cried, rushing to her mother's side and helping her back to bed with a strength that seemed to defy her small size. "I'm okay, baby girl," Sarah whispered weakly, though they both knew it was a lie. The cancer was winning slowly but surely, and they were rapidly running out of time. Madison clutched the talent show flyer against her chest, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and hope. "Mama, I'm going to audition for this show and I'm going to win. Then you'll get the best doctors in the whole world. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked at her daughter, this brave little girl who carried the weight of the world on her tiny shoulders. Madison, honey, you don't have to. Yes, I do, Madison interrupted, her jaw set with a fierce determination that belied her age. You always told me that music can heal anything. Now I'm going to prove it. That night, as Sarah slept fitfully beside her, her breathing shallow and labored, Madison stared at the ceiling, her mind racing, her hopes soaring, and her fears gnawing at her. She made a promise to herself. She would get on that stage in front of those judges and that massive audience. She would sing with everything in her heart, pouring every ounce of her love and desperation into her performance. And somehow, someway, she would save the only person who had ever truly loved her. What she didn't know was that in a luxurious mansion across town, a man named Michael Sterling, a prominent judge, a renowned music producer, and a self-made millionaire, was being tormented by the same recurring nightmare that had haunted him for the past 7 years. A nightmare filled with a haunting melody, a broken promise, and a life-altering choice that continued to plague him every single day. He knew, deep down, that tomorrow would change everything, for better or for worse. For the next 3 days, Madison dedicated herself to practicing in their tiny apartment, her voice growing stronger and more confident with each passing hour, despite the chaos and uncertainty that surrounded her. Sarah's condition worsened daily, the cancer relentlessly attacking her body, and the medical bills continued to pile up like fallen autumn leaves, threatening to bury them alive under their overwhelming weight. Sing it again, baby, Sarah encouraged weakly from the couch, wrapped in every blanket they owned, trying to ward off the persistent chills. Her face was gaunt and pale, her cheekbones sharp against her skin, but her eyes still sparkled with love and pride whenever Madison performed. The cancer may have been stealing her strength, but it couldn't touch her unwavering love for her daughter. Madison strummed the guitar carefully, her small fingers finding the familiar chords that her mother had patiently taught her years ago. The instrument was older than Madison herself, its wood worn smooth by countless hours of practice and heartfelt performances. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray, she sang, her voice filled with both joy and sorrow. The song held a special meaning for them both. It was the first lullaby Sarah had sung to Madison as a baby, a song that had been passed down from her own mother, a cherished family tradition. What neither of them knew was that the same melody had once filled a different home, a home filled with laughter and love, sung by a different voice to the same precious child. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Sarah whispered. Her voice strained as she coughed violently into a tissue that came away spotted with blood. She tried to hide it, but Madison's sharp eyes caught everything. Mama, you're getting worse, Madison said, setting down the guitar and rushing to her mother's side, her face etched with concern. I'm okay, baby girl. Just a bad day. Sarah forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, her attempt at reassurance falling flat. Tell me about your song choice. Why you are my sunshine. Madison curled up beside her mother on the worn couch, careful not to jostle her too much. Because it's true, Mama. You are my sunshine. When Daddy left us, you could have been sad forever, but you made everything bright instead. You taught me that music can chase away the darkness. Sarah's heart clenched with a familiar pain. Madison barely remembered her father. She had been just 6 months old when Michael Sterling walked out of their lives, choosing his ambition and his career over his family. Sarah had worked tirelessly to shield her daughter from the pain and bitterness of that abandonment, never speaking ill of the man who had broken her heart. Your daddy, he loved you, Madison. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes they can't fix. Then he was stupid, Madison declared with the unwavering certainty of a 7-year-old. Because you're the best thing in the whole world, and anyone who leaves you is just dumb. The morning of the audition arrived, crisp and bright. Madison meticulously counted their remaining money with the seriousness of an accountant, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had organized the bills by denomination, smoothing out every wrinkled dollar, a small act of control in a situation that felt utterly chaotic. Enough for bus fare to the audition center, but definitely not enough for Sarah's next chemotherapy treatment. "You sure you want to do this, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, her voice raspy from coughing. The sound was getting worse, more frequent, more persistent. "It's a big city, and those judges can be mean on TV." Madison nodded firmly, shouldering the guitar case that seemed almost as big as she was. "I have to, Mama," Dr. Patterson said. She couldn't finish the sentence. The word die was too big, too final for her small vocabulary, a concept she desperately tried to avoid. As they prepared to leave their cramped apartment, their elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chun, a kind woman with a warm smile and a gentle spirit, knocked softly on the door. She had been watching Sarah deteriorate through their thin walls, hearing the coughing fits that lasted through the night, witnessing the slow, agonizing decline. "I heard about the audition," she said, her voice filled with concern, as she pressed a worn $20 bill into Madison's palm. The money was warm from being clutched in her arthritic hands. "For luck, little songbird." Madison hugged the old woman tightly, breathing in her comforting scent of jasmine tea and kindness. "I'll pay you back when I win. Promise." "When you win," Mrs. Chun repeated, her eyes twinkling with genuine belief. She had heard Madison practicing, had witnessed the raw talent and unwavering determination that poured from their apartment like liquid gold. The audition center buzzed with an electric energy, filled with hundreds of hopefuls, each carrying their own dreams and desperation, their hopes and fears etched on their faces. The building was massive and modern, with towering glass walls that reflected the cloudy Nashville sky, making Madison feel impossibly small and insignificant among the sea of aspiring performers. She clutched Sarah's hand tighter as they navigated through the crowded hallways, the sheer number of contestants and the pressure of the situation threatening to overwhelm her. Her mother, despite her weakness, had insisted on coming, wanting to be there to support Madison, leaning heavily on her small shoulder for support. "Contestant 247. A harried production assistant called out, her voice amplified by a headset, a clipboard clutched in her hand. Madison looked down at her paper wristband. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a caged bird as she walked toward the designated holding area, the wheels of her guitar case dragging behind her. "You've got this, baby?" Sarah whispered, kneeling down to Madison's level despite the pain it caused her. "Remember what we practiced. Sing from your heart, not just your throat." "What if they don't like me?" Madison asked, her confidence wavering now that the moment was real, now that she was face to face with her dream. "Then they're deaf," Sarah said firmly, her eyes filled with unwavering belief. "You have a gift, Madison. A gift that comes from something bigger than just talent. You sing with your soul." In the judging room, 3 figures sat behind an imposing curved table that looked like it belonged in a courtroom rather than a talent show. Madison recognized them instantly from television. Jessica Walsh, the pop star known for her sharp critiques, but with a hidden soft heart beneath her tough exterior. Robert Martinez, the veteran music producer who had discovered some of the biggest names in country music. And Michael Sterling, the youngest and wealthiest of the 3, whose business empire extended far beyond the realm of entertainment. Michael Sterling adjusted his expensive Rolex, checking the time with a barely concealed air of impatience. He had been judging auditions for 6 hours straight, and most of the acts had blurred together in a monotonous parade of mediocrity and desperation. But something felt different about this next audition. A strange unease he couldn't quite explain, a feeling like the air before a thunderstorm, heavy with unspoken tension. "What's the next act?" he asked the producer, rubbing his temples in an attempt to ward off the headache that was beginning to build. 7-year-old girl, Madison Rivers, says she's singing to pay for her mother's medical treatment. Michael's expression softened slightly. He had heard similar stories before. The show, with its promise of instant fame and fortune, inevitably attracted people at their lowest points, grasping for miracle solutions. But children always affected him differently, stirring up a complex mix of emotions he usually tried to suppress. Deep in his chest, something stirred, a familiar ache he had learned to ignore over the years, a reminder of a life he had left behind. The production assistant led Madison through the heavy doors and onto the stage. The auditorium felt enormous, the lights blindingly bright against her small frame. She squinted, trying to make out the faces of the judges through the glare. "Hello there," Jessica said warmly, immediately charmed by the tiny figure standing center stage. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Madison Rivers," she replied, her voice sounding stronger than her knees felt. She planted her feet firmly, remembering Sarah's advice about stage presence, about projecting confidence even when you felt like you were about to crumble. "And why are you here today, Madison?" Robert asked, leaning forward with genuine interest, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he smiled. Madison took a deep breath, channeling her mother's strength and determination. "My mama has cancer. She needs an operation that costs more money than we'll ever have. I sing on the street corners every day after school, but it's not enough. If I win this, I can save her life." The three judges exchanged glances, each one deeply affected by the raw honesty and unwavering determination in her words. They had heard heartbreaking stories before, but something about this little girl's matter-of-fact bravery hit them differently, resonating with a power they couldn't quite explain. Michael leaned forward, studying her face with growing unease. Something about her features nagged at him, triggering a flood of long-suppressed memories. The shape of her green eyes, the way she tilted her head when she was concentrating, the stubborn set of her jaw, they were all achingly familiar. "What are you going to sing for us?" he asked, his voice softer and gentler than usual, betraying the turmoil that was brewing inside him. Madison gripped her guitar tighter, her knuckles white against the worn neck. "A song my mama taught me. It's about sunshine and hope and never giving up on the people you love." Madison positioned herself center stage, her guitar looking comically large in her small arms. The auditorium fell silent, except for the hum of camera equipment and the distant murmur of crew members. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, scrutinizing her every move. Cameras, judges, production staff, all waiting to see if this small girl could deliver on her big promises. She closed her eyes for a moment, picturing her mother's pale face that morning, the worry in her eyes masked by forced smiles and encouraging words. When Madison opened her eyes again, they blazed with a determination that seemed to burn from somewhere deeper than childhood should reach. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine," she began, her voice pure and clear, filling the auditorium with a haunting melody that silenced every doubt. The first note cut through the air like silk, carrying a depth of emotion that seemed impossible for someone so young. Pain, hope, love, and desperation, all woven together in perfect harmony, creating a tapestry of sound that tugged at the heartstrings. The guitar seemed to play itself in her small hands, each chord ringing clear and true, resonating with the weight of her story. "You make me happy when skies are gray," she continued, her voice growing stronger, more confident with each passing verse. In the judges' seats, Michael Sterling's world tilted on its axis, the foundations of his carefully constructed reality crumbling around him. The voice, the song, the way she closed her eyes when she reached the high notes, it was all too familiar, too reminiscent of a life he had tried so hard to forget. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably as memories crashed over him like a tsunami, washing away 7 years of carefully constructed denial, revealing the raw, unfiltered truth beneath. 7 years ago, a different life, a different version of himself. A woman named Elena, dark-haired and radiantly beautiful, singing this same song to their baby girl in a nursery painted sunshine yellow. The same guitar, worn and loved, passed down through generations of women in her family. The same melody that had filled their home with joy and laughter before everything fell apart, before his insatiable ambition became more important than love, before he made the devastating choice that would haunt him for the rest of his days. "You'll never know, dear, how much I love you," Madison sang, her voice filled with a heartbreaking tenderness. Michael's breath caught in his throat, his chest constricting with a pain so intense it felt like his heart was being ripped from his chest. The little girl on stage had Elena's eyes, his own stubborn chin, his mother's delicate nose. The timeline matched perfectly, 7 years since he had walked away from his family, choosing the fleeting promise of business success over the enduring bonds of love and loyalty. Please don't take my sunshine away, she finished, letting the final note hang in the air like a prayer, a plea for salvation. As Madison sang the final note, letting it hang in the air like a prayer, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Jessica wiped tears from her eyes without a hint of shame, her face flushed with emotion. Robert nodded in approval, his professional composure cracking under the weight of the performance. But Michael Sterling sat frozen, his face ashen, his world simultaneously crumbling and rebuilding itself before his very eyes. Madison looked directly at him during the applause, and for one heart-stopping moment, he saw Elena's face reflected in their daughter's features. The same smile, the same tilt of the head, the same unconscious grace. Their daughter, the baby he had abandoned, the child he had convinced himself was better off without him, was standing on that stage, pouring her heart and soul into a song that he knew all too well. That was absolutely beautiful, Jessica said, her voice thick with emotion. You have something special, honey, something that can't be taught. Incredible talent, Robert agreed, still shaking his head in amazement. You have a gift, young lady, a real gift. All eyes turned to Michael, the deciding vote, the final judgment, the man who unknowingly held his daughter's future in his trembling hands. Madison waited, her heart in her throat, her future hanging in the balance, everything depending on this one pivotal moment. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until it became almost unbearable. Michael opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. How do you tell a child you abandoned that she's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? How do you explain 7 years of absence in front of rolling cameras and millions of viewers? How do you begin to atone for a mistake that has caused so much pain? He started, then stopped, unable to find the right words to express the turmoil raging inside him. That song, where did you learn it? Madison smiled hopefully, encouraged by his interest, her face lighting up like a sunrise. It's my favorite. My mama says her mama used to sing it to her, and she sang it to me when I was little. She says music can heal anything, even broken hearts. The irony cut deep, like a blade twisting between his ribs. Their daughter was trying to heal her mother, while unknowingly healing the father who had broken them both. We need to take a 5-minute break, Michael announced suddenly, standing so abruptly that his chair scraped against the floor with a harsh screech that made everyone jump. Jessica and Robert exchanged concerned glances as Michael strode off stage without explanation, leaving Madison standing there confused and heartbroken, unsure of what she had done wrong. The little girl's face crumpled slightly, her hopes and dreams teetering on the edge of collapse. Don't worry, sweetheart, Jessica called out reassuringly. Sometimes judges need a moment to process something really special. In the hallway, Michael's assistant found him leaning against the wall, his head in his hands, his expensive suit wrinkled from the trembling that had overtaken his body. Sir, are you all right? Should I call a doctor? Get me everything on Madison Rivers, Michael whispered, his voice hoarse and strained. Background, family, medical records, everything. I don't care what it costs or who you have to call. Sir, I don't understand. Just do it now, Michael commanded, his voice rising in desperation. 20 minutes later, Michael stared at the file that confirmed his worst fears and greatest hopes. Madison Rivers, born 7 years and 3 months ago to Elena Rivers, formerly Elena Sterling. Medical records confirming Elena's current battle with stage 3 cancer, diagnosed 18 months ago. Financial records revealing their desperate poverty. A trail of unpaid bills and borrowed money, a stark testament to their struggles. Elena had taken back her maiden name after the divorce, apparently using her middle name, Sarah, as her first name now. She had never asked him for money, never tried to contact him, despite having every legal right to child support. She had simply disappeared, taking their daughter with her and building a new life from the ashes of their old one. And now, their little girl was here, standing on his stage, singing their song, trying to save the mother he had failed to love enough to stay for. Michael's phone buzzed. A text from his private investigator, someone he had used for sensitive business deals in the past. Per your urgent request, Elena Sarah Rivers admitted to Nashville General 3 hours ago. Critical condition. Doctors say days, maybe hours. The world stopped spinning. Madison was here auditioning while her mother lay dying just 3 miles away. Elena was dying, and she probably had no idea that their daughter was standing on his stage, singing their song, trying to save her life. When Michael returned to the judging panel, his face was composed, but his eyes held a new intensity, a deep sadness that Jessica and Robert couldn't quite decipher. "Madison," he said carefully, his voice controlled despite the turmoil raging inside him. "Tell me about your mother." Madison's face lit up like a sunrise, all worry and anxiety forgotten. "She's the best mama in the whole world. She taught me guitar when my fingers were so small I could barely hold the neck. She sings even when she's really sick, when the medicine makes her feel awful. She used to be a singer too before I was born. She had dreams just like mine." "What's her name?" Michael asked, though he already knew the answer would shatter his already fragile heart. "Sarah Rivers. But she told me her stage name used to be Elena Sterling back when she performed in the big venues." Jessica and Robert didn't catch the significance, but Madison noticed how Judge Sterling's face went completely white, as if he had seen a ghost. "Elena Sterling," he repeated slowly, testing the name on his tongue after years of trying to forget it, after years of burying the memories deep within his subconscious. "Did you know her?" Madison asked hopefully, bouncing slightly on her toes, her eyes shining with excitement. "She said she used to sing in Nashville, in the fancy places with real stages and everything." Michael's throat closed completely, making it impossible to speak. Elena had been pregnant when he left, just starting to show. He had been so focused on his expanding business empire that he had missed the beauty of what they were creating together, the miracle of new life. "I knew her," he managed to choke out, each word feeling like shards of glass in his throat. She was very talented." Madison beamed with pride, her chest swelling with love for her mother. "I want to be just like her when I grow up. Strong and brave and kind. She never complains, even when I know she's hurting real bad." Michael felt his heart shatter completely, each piece cutting deeper than the last. Their daughter idolized the woman he had abandoned, and Elena had clearly raised her to be everything good in the world, everything he wasn't. The audition resumed, but the energy had shifted dramatically. Madison could sense something different about Judge Sterling, the way he looked at her with an intensity that seemed to see straight through her, the careful way he chose his words, as if he were walking on eggshells. "Madison," Jessica said, glancing uncertainly at her fellow judges. "We've made our decision." Madison held her breath, her small hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles were white. Everything hinged on this moment. Her mother's life, their future, her dreams of becoming someone who could fix everything, all riding on this one, final judgment. "It's a yes from me," Jessica announced with a warm smile. "You have a gift that can't be taught and a heart that makes it shine." "Yes from me as well," Robert added enthusiastically. "You sing with your whole heart, and that's something this world needs more of." All eyes turned to Michael, the deciding vote, the final judgment, the man who unknowingly held his daughter's future in his trembling hands. Madison looked at him with such hope, such trust, such pure faith in the goodness of the world that Michael felt the weight of 7 years of mistakes crushing down on him like an avalanche. "Madison," he said slowly, each word carefully measured, "I need to ask you something. If you could have anything in the world, anything at all, what would it be?" Without hesitation, without even needing to think, Madison replied, "For my mama to get better. That's all I've ever wanted. All I pray for every night. I don't need toys or clothes or anything else. Just her." Michael nodded, tears threatening to spill despite his efforts to maintain his composure. "And you believe music can heal anything?" "Yes, sir. Mama always said so, and I've seen it work. When she's really sick and hurting, I sing to her, and for just a little while, she smiles like she used to." Michael stood up, his decision crystallizing with the force of an earthquake, his path forward suddenly clear. "Then it's a yes from me, too. You're going to the next round, Madison Rivers." Madison screamed with pure joy, jumping up and down, her guitar case forgotten in her excitement as she celebrated her victory. "I have to call Mama. She's going to be so proud." Wait until I tell her. Judge Sterling said yes. But as the production team swarmed around Madison with paperwork and congratulations, Michael pulled the show producer aside, his face etched with urgent intensity. I need you to do something for me immediately, he said, his voice brooking no argument. Find out what hospital Elena Rivers is in. Arrange for the best oncologist in Nashville, hell, in the country to see her immediately. Money is no object. Whatever it takes. Sir, I don't understand. Why would you? Just do it. Michael commanded, his executive persona taking over, his authority unwavering. And make sure Madison doesn't know it came from me. Not yet. As Madison was led away to sign paperwork and meet with producers, her heart overflowing with happiness and gratitude, she turned back and waved at the judges with unbridled joy. Thank you, Judge Sterling, she called out, her voice ringing with sincerity. You won't regret this. I'm going to make you proud. Michael watched his daughter disappear through the doors, carrying their shared song and Elena's strength in her small, determined frame. She was right. He wouldn't regret this. But he might not survive the revelation that was coming, the confrontation with his past that he had avoided for so long. For the first time in 7 years, Michael Sterling allowed himself to hope, to plan, and to dream of a future filled with love and redemption. He had a family to save, a debt to repay. And this time, he wasn't going to walk away. Within an hour of Madison's audition, the best oncology team in Nashville was rushing to Sarah's bedside at Nashville General Hospital, their faces etched with purpose and determination. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, one of the country's leading cancer specialists, had been flown in from Johns Hopkins on a private jet that cost more per hour than most people made in a year. I don't understand, Sarah whispered weakly to the nurse, her voice laced with confusion. I can't afford this. There must be some mistake. No mistake, ma'am. The nurse replied kindly, her eyes filled with compassion. An anonymous benefactor has covered all your expenses. Full treatment, surgery, everything. Sarah's eyes filled with tears of relief, gratitude, and overwhelming joy. She was too weak to question miracles, too sick to investigate good fortune. All she could think about was Madison, probably riding the bus home from her audition, carrying the weight of the world on her 7-year-old shoulders. Meanwhile, Michael Sterling sat in his black sedan outside the hospital, watching through tinted windows as medical staff rushed between buildings, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and anxiety. His hands. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned bone white. Elena was in that hospital, battling for her very breath, and Madison, their little girl, was blissfully unaware that her father was finally, desperately trying to right his past wrongs. The phone buzzed, shattering the tense silence in the car. It was his assistant, her voice a crisp blend of efficiency and concern. Sir, the medical team is assembled and ready. Dr. Chun advises that the patient's condition is critical, but there's a window of opportunity if they operate immediately. Whatever it takes, Michael repeated, his voice a low growl. Spare no expense. I don't care what it costs. Sir, if I may be so bold, why this sudden, intense involvement? I've never witnessed you this deeply invested in a charitable case. Michael closed his eyes, a vision of Madison's radiant face filling his mind, her voice echoing in his memory, singing their song, a melody of love and innocence. A wave of regret washed over him, sharp and agonizing. Because some debts, he said, his voice thick with emotion, can never truly be repaid. But God damn it, you have to try anyway. Meanwhile, miles away, in the cramped confines of their modest apartment, Madison burst through the door, radiating more energy than she'd possessed in months. Her eyes sparkled with uncontainable excitement. Mrs. Chun, Mrs. Chun, she called out, her voice ringing with youthful exuberance. Their neighbor, a kind, matronly woman with a perpetual air of gentle concern, emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. How did it go, little songbird? Mrs. Chun asked, her eyes twinkling with anticipation. I made it, Madison announced, twirling around the small living room in a dizzying display of pure joy. All 3 judges said, yes, I'm going to the next round. Mrs. Chun enveloped her in a warm embrace, feeling the small girl's heart pounding against her chest. A frantic rhythm of excitement and hope. "I knew you would, child. Your voice is magic, pure and simple. Now where's Mama? I can't wait to tell her the good news." Madison's face clouded over, her joyful expression replaced by a look of confusion as she scanned the empty apartment. "Mama? Where is she?" Mrs. Chen's face grew somber, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and apprehension. She gently guided Madison to the worn sofa. "Madison, honey, your mama took a turn this afternoon. She's at the hospital. But don't you worry, the doctors are taking very good care of her." Madison's world tilted on its axis, the bright colors of her victory suddenly fading into a dull, muted gray. Fear gripped her heart, cold and relentless. Is she going to be okay? The doctors say she's receiving the best treatment money can buy. Mrs. Chun reassured her, squeezing her hand. Someone very kind is helping her. Madison sank onto the couch, her beloved guitar still strapped to her back, feeling suddenly heavy and cumbersome. "I should be with her. She's probably scared. The doctor said she needs to rest and conserve her energy for the surgery tomorrow." Mrs. Chun explained softly. "But Madison, your mama would want you to keep singing, to keep chasing your dream. This is what you've been working towards, what you've sacrificed for." That night, sleep eluded Madison. She lay awake in her small bed, staring up at the ceiling, her mind a battlefield of conflicting emotions. Excitement about the competition warred with the crushing terror of her mother's illness. She whispered frantic prayers to every saint she could remember, bargaining with God with the raw, desperate fervor of a child. Please let Mama be okay," she pleaded silently. "I'll give up the competition. I'll do anything. Just don't take her away from me." But even as she prayed, a sliver of steely resolve remained. She knew she had to keep going, had to continue fighting for her dream. The competition was their only hope, their only chance to escape the crushing cycle of poverty that had defined her entire life. 3 miles away, in his opulent penthouse high above the city, Michael Sterling stood at the window, gazing out at the distant glow of the hospital where Elena fought for her life. For the first time in 7 long years, he allowed himself to remember the good times, the moments of pure, unadulterated joy. Elena's infectious laughter at his corny jokes, the way she'd sing while she cooked, filling their tiny apartment with warmth and melody, the way her eyes had lit up when she told him they were going to have a baby. He'd thrown it all away, sacrificed it all on the altar of ambition, for fleeting business deals that now seemed utterly meaningless, for piles of money that couldn't buy back a single stolen moment, for a hollow success that tasted like ash without a family to share it with. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the vast Nashville skyline, his voice cracking with remorse. "God, I'm so damn sorry." The next morning dawned with a mix of hope and lingering anxiety. Sarah's surgery had been deemed successful, a cautious victory, but she remained in critical condition, her fate hanging precariously in the balance. The anonymous benefactor, the mysterious angel, had arranged for her to have a private room, round-the-clock nursing care, and access to cutting-edge experimental treatments that were simply unavailable to ordinary patients. Madison sat beside her mother's bed, holding her pale, frail hand, trying not to be overwhelmed by the sight of all the tubes and wires and machines that were keeping her alive. Sarah looked so small and vulnerable in the hospital bed, as if she might disappear entirely if Madison dared to look away. "The nurses say someone special is paying for all this?" Madison whispered, her voice barely audible above the rhythmic beeping of the machines. "An angel, they called him. Do you think it's real angels, Mama? Or just someone really good?" Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand weakly, a faint smile gracing her lips. "Sometimes," she whispered, her voice raspy and strained, "angels look like regular people. They do good things without wanting any recognition. I wish I could thank them. I wish I could sing for them." "Maybe someday you will, baby girl," Madison replied, squeezing her hand tighter. "Maybe that's why you have your gift, to bring light to people who need it." Later that afternoon, the inevitable arrived. Madison had to leave for the next, crucial round of the competition. The show's producers, sensing the gravity of the situation and the potential for a compelling narrative, had offered to postpone her performance, but Madison refused, her resolve unwavering. "Mama needs this medicine," she told them firmly, her chin held high, "and I made a promise to her that I'm going to win." The second audition was held in a more intimate venue, a smaller theater with only 50 contestants remaining, each vying for a coveted spot in the finals. Madison felt the aching absence of her mother like a physical wound, a constant throb of worry and longing. But instead of letting it cripple her, she channeled that raw pain, that vulnerability, into her performance, transforming it into a powerful, transcendent force. This time, she sang Amazing Grace, her voice soaring through the auditorium with an ethereal quality, a power that seemed impossible coming from someone so small. The judges were visibly moved, tears glistening in their eyes, and Michael Sterling, watching from the wings, found himself fighting back a tidal wave of emotion as he witnessed his daughter pour her heart and soul out on stage. "Madison," Jessica said, her voice thick with emotion after the performance. "Where does that emotion come from? You sing like you've lived 100 lifetimes." "I sing for my mama," Madison replied simply, her voice clear and unwavering, "and for everyone who's ever been scared or alone. Music is supposed to help people feel better." When the results were announced, it was no surprise that Madison had made it to the final 10, the elite group of contenders. She was the youngest contestant ever to reach that level, and suddenly, the media attention was overwhelming, a constant barrage of cameras and microphones and intrusive questions. "How does it feel to be so young and so talented?" a reporter asked, thrusting a microphone in her face. "It feels like a responsibility," Madison answered with startling maturity, her eyes shining with conviction. "God gave me this voice for a reason, and I think it's to help people." Michael watched the interview from his office, marveling at the innate wisdom in his daughter's words, the grace and poise she exuded under immense pressure. Elena had raised an extraordinary child, a testament to her unwavering love and devotion. Kind, talented, and wise beyond her years, Madison was a beacon of hope in a world often shrouded in darkness. That evening, Michael made a decision that terrified him, a leap of faith that could shatter his carefully constructed world. He picked up the phone and called his private investigator, the man who had been his shadow for the past 7 years. "I need you to arrange a meeting," he said, his voice tight with apprehension. "I want to see Elena Rivers tonight. Sir, she's in intensive care. Visiting hours are restricted to family only." "Then find a way. I don't care what it takes. Bend the rules, pull some strings, bribe someone if you have to. Just get me in there." 2 hours later, disguised in surgical scrubs and sporting a visitor's badge that identified him as a consulting physician, Michael Sterling stood hesitantly outside Elena's hospital room, his heart pounding in his chest like a frantic drum. His hand trembled as he reached for the door handle, a wave of anxiety washing over him. Elena lay unconscious in the bed, her face pale and gaunt, connected to a bewildering array of machines that beeped and whirred steadily in the dimly lit room. She looked older than her 32 years, worn down by the relentless struggle of illness and poverty. But even in her weakened state, she was still beautiful, still the woman he'd fallen head over heels for all those years ago, the woman whose memory had haunted his dreams. "Hello, Elena," he whispered, pulling up a chair beside her bed. "It's me. It's Michael." Her eyelids fluttered open, her eyes focusing slowly on his face, confusion clouding her gaze. For a moment, she looked disoriented, as if she might be hallucinating, mistaking him for a ghost from her past. "Michael?" she breathed, her voice raspy and weak. "What are you doing here? How did you—" "I saw her," he said simply, cutting off her question. "I saw Madison. She auditioned for the show." Elena's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of relief, pride, and lingering pain. "She made it, didn't she? I could see it in her face when she visited earlier. She's incredible, Elena. She's talented and kind and brave, just like her mother." "Why are you here?" Elena asked, her voice gaining strength, laced with a hint of suspicion. "After all these years, why now?" Michael reached out and gently took her hand, his touch tentative, almost reverent. "Because I've been a fool," he said, his voice thick with regret. "Because I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I want to try to make things right." "It's too late for us, Michael," Elena said, her voice laced with sadness. "Too much has happened. The damage is done." "Maybe, but it's not too late for Madison. She's my daughter, too, and I want to be the father she deserves." Elena studied his face intently, searching for a flicker of sincerity, a hint of genuine remorse behind the polished facade. "She doesn't know about you, Michael. I never told her who her father was. I wanted to protect her from the pain." "I know, and I understand why," he said, squeezing her hand gently. "But Elena, I want to help. I want to be there for both of you." "She's competing for us," Elena whispered, her voice trembling with exhaustion. "She thinks winning that show is the only way to save me." Michael's heart broke all over again, a fresh wave of guilt washing over him. The weight of his past actions pressed down on him, suffocating him with regret. "She shouldn't have to carry that burden alone," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "She's just a little girl." "She's stronger than you know," Elena replied, a hint of pride in her voice. "Stronger than both of us." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 7 lost years hanging heavy in the air between them, a palpable presence in the small, sterile room. "I'm the anonymous benefactor," Michael finally admitted, breaking the silence. "The medical bills, the specialists, all of it. Couldn't let you die, Elena. Not when I'd already lost so much time." Elena closed her eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks, a silent testament to the pain and hardship she had endured. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for saving my life, for giving me more time with her. It's the least I could do. But Elena, I want to do more. I want to tell her the truth." Elena's eyes snapped open, a look of fear and apprehension clouding her gaze. "No, not yet. Please, Michael. Let her finish the competition first. Let her have this moment, this chance to shine. There will be time for the truth later." Michael nodded slowly, understanding her reasoning but not liking it, the weight of the secret pressing down on him. "When you're ready, then, when you think she's ready," he conceded reluctantly. "Promise me something," Elena said urgently, her grip tightening on his hand. "Promise me that if something happens to me, you'll take care of her. Not just financially, but really take care of her. Love her the way she deserves." "I promise," Michael said, his voice filled with unwavering conviction, meaning it with every fiber of his being. "I won't fail her again." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of rehearsals, interviews, and mounting pressure. Madison had advanced to the final 3 contestants, the cream of the crop, and the entire country was talking about the little girl with the big voice and the even bigger heart. Sarah was recovering slowly but steadily, responding well to the cutting-edge treatments and the unwavering support of her mysterious benefactor. She was strong enough now to attend Madison's final performances, though she still tired easily and needed assistance getting around. "I can't believe how far you've come," Sarah told Madison as they sat in the luxurious hotel room provided by the show, a stark contrast to their cramped apartment. "From singing on street corners to the biggest stage in America. Feels like a dream." "It doesn't feel real," Madison admitted, a hint of disbelief in her voice. "Sometimes I think I'm going to wake up and we'll still be in our old apartment with bills piling up and no way to pay them." "It's real, baby girl," Sarah reassured her, stroking her hair. "You made it real with your talent and your heart." The other 2 finalists were seasoned professionals with years of experience, but Madison possessed something they didn't. A compelling story that resonated with millions of people, a voice that seemed touched by something divine, and an unwavering determination to succeed. In his judge's chair, Michael watched his daughter prepare for the biggest moment of her young life, his heart filled with a mixture of pride, anxiety, and overwhelming love. The final performance would determine the winner, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Not just for the $1 million prize, but for the validation of everything Madison had worked for, everything she had sacrificed. The theme for the finale was Songs That Changed Your Life, and Madison had chosen, unsurprisingly, You Are My Sunshine, the lullaby of their past. "It's the song that saved me," She explained to the cameras during her pre-performance interview. When my mama was sick and I was scared, I would sing this song and remember that there's always light, even in the darkest times. Michael felt his throat constrict as he watched the interview, a wave of memories flooding his mind. She was going to sing their song, the lullaby he'd sung to her as a baby, the melody that had brought them back together, a poignant symbol of their enduring connection. That evening, as Madison prepared for her final performance, she received an unexpected visitor. Michael Sterling, the formidable Judge Sterling, knocked gently on her dressing room door, his heart pounding against his ribs. "Judge Sterling," Madison exclaimed, her face lighting up with surprise and delight. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to wish you luck," he said, kneeling down to her level, his eyes filled with genuine warmth. "And to tell you something important." "What is it?" Madison asked, her brow furrowed with curiosity. Michael looked into his daughter's eyes, Elena's eyes, and felt the weight of unspoken truth pressing down on him, the burden of the secret he was carrying. But he remembered his promise to Elena, the vow he had made to protect her daughter. "Not yet," he thought, "not until she was ready. I wanted to tell you that I've never heard anyone sing with as much heart as you do," he said instead, his voice thick with emotion. "Whatever happens tonight, you've already won something more important than any prize." "What's that?" Madison asked, tilting her head inquisitively. "You've reminded everyone what music is really about. Love, hope, and healing. That's a gift not many people have." Madison hugged him impulsively, her small arms wrapping tightly around his neck, and Michael felt his world shift on its axis. This was his daughter, this brave, beautiful little girl who had somehow found her way back to him through the power of song. "Thank you, Judge Sterling. You've been so nice to me, nicer than any of the other judges." "Maybe," Michael said, his voice cracking with emotion, "because I see something special in you. Something that reminds me of someone I used to know." "Who?" Madison asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Michael smiled sadly, a poignant mixture of regret and affection. "Someone I should have held on to when I had the chance." As Madison took the stage for her final performance, 3,000 people in the audience and millions more watching at home held their breath, captivated by her story and her extraordinary talent. She looked so small and fragile under the bright lights, but when she opened her mouth to sing, her presence filled the entire auditorium, radiating an aura of strength and vulnerability. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine, my sunshine." And in the front row, Sarah Rivers cried openly, tears of pride and love streaming down her face, overwhelmed by the moment. In the judges' seats, Michael Sterling gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white, watching his daughter sing their song with every fiber of her being, pouring her heart and soul into each and every note. "You make me happy when skies are gray." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word, every note, completely mesmerized by her performance. This wasn't just a song. It was a prayer, a plea, a declaration of love that transcended words, a heartfelt testament to the power of music to heal and to connect. "You'll never know, dear, how much I love you." Michael found himself mouthing the words along with her, remembering all the times he'd sung this song in a different time, in a different place, to a different audience of one. "Please don't take my sunshine away." When the final note faded into the silence, the auditorium remained hushed for 3 heartbeats before erupting in the loudest, most sustained applause of the season. The audience was on its feet, crying, cheering, completely overwhelmed by what they had witnessed, a collective outpouring of emotion. Madison curtsied politely, her eyes searching the crowd until they found her mother in the front row. Sarah was sobbing with pride, her face radiant with love, and Madison felt a sense of completion wash over her, a feeling that she had given everything she had, that she had left nothing unsaid. Whatever happened next, she had sung her heart out for her mother, for her family, for herself. In the judges' seats, Michael Sterling stood and applauded with the rest of the audience, tears streaming down his face without shame, his heart overflowing with love and admiration for his daughter. She had just delivered the performance of a lifetime, and she had no idea that her father was watching, that he had been watching all along, his life forever changed by her presence. That, he said into his microphone when the applause finally died down, his voice thick with emotion, was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard in my life. Madison beamed at him, her face radiant with happiness, and Michael felt his heart break and heal simultaneously, a complex tapestry of emotions swirling within him. Soon, very soon, he would have to tell her the truth, to reveal the secret he had been carrying for so long. But for now, in this fleeting moment, he was just a judge, and she was just a contestant, and the moment was perfect in its painful beauty. The votes were tallied, the results sealed. But before the winner could be announced, something unprecedented happened, something that would change all of their lives forever. Michael Sterling stood up from the judge's table, his face pale but determined, and asked for the microphone, his hands shaking slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying across the silent auditorium, his words hanging in the air like a promise. "Before we announce our winner tonight, I need to share something with all of you, something I should have shared a long time ago." A murmur of confusion rippled through the audience, a collective gasp of anticipation. The other judges looked surprised, their faces reflecting a mixture of curiosity and concern. Madison stood center stage, her face a mask of confusion, but with a quiet sense of trust, a belief that whatever was about to happen, it would be all right. 7 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life, Michael continued, his voice growing stronger, more resolute with each word. I was young, ambitious, and stupid. I had a beautiful wife and a baby daughter, but I thought my career was more important than my family. The cameras zoomed in on his face, capturing every nuance of emotion as he spoke, every flicker of regret and remorse. "I walked away from them," he confessed, his voice cracking with emotion. "I convinced myself they were better off without me. I was wrong about everything." Sarah Rivers felt her heart stop, her breath catching in her throat. In the front row, she stared at Michael Sterling with growing recognition and disbelief, the truth dawning on her with the force of a physical blow. "Madison Rivers," Michael said, his voice filled with love and tenderness, looking directly at his daughter, his eyes locking with hers. "You are the most talented, brave, and beautiful person I have ever met. You're also my daughter." The auditorium erupted in a cacophony of gasps and confused murmurs, a wave of shock washing over the crowd. Madison stood frozen, her mind struggling to process the words she had just heard, the revelation that had shattered her reality. "I'm sorry, honey," Michael said, his voice laced with pain and regret. "I know this is confusing and scary, but I'm your daddy, and I've been looking for you and your mama for 7 years. Madison's eyes filled with tears, tears of confusion, of disbelief, of a longing she had never dared to express. She looked toward her mother, who was crying openly now, her face a mixture of relief, sadness, and forgiveness, nodding slowly to confirm that it was true, that the man on stage was indeed her father. "My daddy?" Madison whispered into her microphone, her voice trembling with emotion. "You're really my daddy?" Michael stepped down from the judge's table and walked slowly toward the stage, his heart aching with every step, his entire being consumed with regret and the desperate hope for redemption. "Yes, sweetheart," he said, his voice barely audible above the din, kneeling in front of his daughter, not caring that millions of people were watching, exposing his vulnerability to the world. "And I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but I'm hoping maybe we can get to know each other." But you said yes to me in the audition," Madison stammered, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Did you know then?" "I suspected when I heard you sing," Michael replied softly, his eyes filled with tenderness. "The song you chose, 'You Are My Sunshine.' I used to sing that to you when you were a baby. Every night I would hold you and sing, 'You are my sunshine, my only sunshine,' until you fell asleep." Madison began to cry, overwhelmed by a tidal wave of emotions she didn't fully understand. "Why did you leave us?" she asked, her voice choked with tears. The question hung in the air like a sharp blade, piercing the hearts of everyone in the room. Michael climbed onto the stage and knelt in front of his daughter, his gaze unwavering, his voice filled with honesty. Because I was scared and selfish, he said, his voice raw with emotion. I thought being a daddy would stop me from achieving my dreams. I didn't understand that you and your mama were the only dreams that really mattered. Mama got really sick, Madison said through her tears, her voice barely audible, and we didn't have money for doctors. I had to sing on the streets to try to help her. Michael's heart shattered completely, a wave of guilt and remorse washing over him, threatening to drown him in despair. I know, baby girl, and I'm so sorry I wasn't there to help you, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. But I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again. Madison looked at him with her mother's eyes, searching his face for a glimmer of truth, a sign of genuine remorse. Do you promise? She asked, her voice filled with a desperate hope. I promise, Michael replied, his gaze unwavering. And Madison, I need you to know something else. The anonymous person who paid for your mama's medical treatment, that was me. The moment I realized who you were, I made sure she got the best care possible. Sarah had made her way onto the stage, supported by a show assistant, her face a mixture of anger, gratitude, and lingering affection. She looked at Michael with a complex array of emotions swirling in her eyes. Elena, Michael said softly, using her real name for the first time in years, a name that had been unspoken between them for so long. I'm sorry for everything. I know, she replied simply, her voice filled with a quiet understanding. I can see it in your eyes. Madison looked between her parents, this father she'd never known, and the mother who had been her whole world, her anchor in the storm. Are we going to be a family now? She asked, her voice filled with hope. Michael and Sarah exchanged a long, meaningful look over their daughter's head, a silent conversation passing between them. 7 years of hurt and anger couldn't be erased in a single moment, but love, real love, never truly dies. It can lie dormant, buried beneath layers of pain and resentment, but it has the power to resurface, to bloom again in unexpected ways. We're going to try, Sarah said gently, her voice filled with a quiet resolve. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight, but yes, we're going to try. The audience had been completely silent during this emotional family reunion, but now they began to applaud softly, a gentle wave of support and encouragement, moved by the raw emotion they had witnessed, the vulnerability and the hope that had filled the room. I believe, said the show's host, stepping forward with tears in his eyes, his voice choked with emotion, that we've already found our winner tonight. Madison Rivers, you came here to save your mother's life, and instead you've reunited a family and reminded all of us what really matters. Madison was officially declared the winner, the confetti raining down on her like shimmering snow, but the $1 million prize seemed almost insignificant compared to what she had really won. She had her mother's health, her father's love, and a family that was finally complete, a mended tapestry woven with threads of forgiveness, hope, and unwavering love. As the confetti fell from the ceiling and the audience cheered, Michael Sterling held his daughter for the first time in 7 long years, wrapping his arms around her small frame, holding her close. She was bigger now, stronger, more independent than the baby he remembered, the tiny girl he used to cradle in his arms. But when she wrapped her small arms around his neck and whispered, I love you, Daddy, he knew that some things never change, that the bonds of family are unbreakable, that love conquers all. Love finds a way. Music heals all wounds. And sometimes, the greatest prize isn't money or fame, but the simple, profound joy of coming home. The days following the finale were a whirlwind of media attention, recording contract offers and family meetings that felt both natural and awkward, a delicate dance of reconciliation and adjustment. Michael had arranged for the best suite in Nashville's finest hotel, a haven of luxury and comfort where the 3 of them could begin the delicate process of becoming a family again, navigating the complexities of their newfound relationship. Madison adapted with the resilience that only children possess, but she was still cautious around Michael, her heart guarded, her trust not easily won. 7 years of his absence couldn't be erased by one dramatic revelation, no matter how sincere his apologies, how genuine his remorse. Daddy, she said one morning over room service breakfast, testing the word on her tongue, savoring the unfamiliar sound of it. Why didn't you try to find us before? Michael set down his coffee cup, meeting his daughter's direct gaze, acknowledging the honesty and vulnerability in her question. Sarah had taught her to ask hard questions, to confront the truth head-on, and he owed her honest answers, no matter how painful they might be. Because I was a coward, he said simply, his voice filled with regret. I told myself you were better off without me. But the truth is, I was afraid I wouldn't be a good enough father. I was afraid of failing you. But you did fail us, Madison said with 7-year-old bluntness. Her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and anger. Mama cried sometimes when she thought I was sleeping. And we were really poor. You're absolutely right, Michael replied, his throat tight with emotion. I did fail you, and I can never take that back. All I can do is try to be better from now on, to earn your trust and your forgiveness. Madison considered this seriously, her brow furrowed in thought, weighing his words carefully. Mama says people deserve second chances if they really truly change, she said finally, her voice filled with a quiet wisdom. Do you think you've really changed? Michael looked at this wise, perceptive little girl who had inherited Elena's directness and his own stubborn determination. A blend of strength and vulnerability that touched him deeply. I hope so, he said, his voice filled with sincerity. But you'll have to decide that for yourself. Sarah watched these interactions with mixed emotions, her heart filled with a mixture of hope and lingering apprehension. She was grateful for Michael's honesty with Madison, for his willingness to acknowledge his past mistakes. But 7 years of single parenthood had made her fiercely protective, a guardian of her daughter's heart. We need to talk about practicalities, she said during one of their evening conversations after Madison had gone to bed, her tone firm but gentle. School, living arrangements, custody. I want you both to move into my house, Michael said immediately, his voice filled with eagerness. It's big enough for everyone to have their own space, and Madison could have a real music room, a place where she can nurture her talent. Sarah shook her head slowly, her expression resolute. We can't just pick up where we left off, Michael. Too much has happened. Madison and I need our own place, a sanctuary where we can rebuild our lives at our own pace. Then I'll buy you a house nearby, Michael offered, his voice filled with desperation. Whatever you want. I want to make this work. I don't want your money, Sarah said firmly, her eyes filled with a quiet pride. Madison won $1 million. We can take care of ourselves. Michael ran his hands through his hair in frustration, his efforts to help seemingly rebuffed at every turn. Elena, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to make up for lost time, to bridge the gap between us. You can't buy back 7 years, she replied softly, her voice filled with a gentle sadness. And you can't fix everything with money. Trust has to be earned, not bought. Then tell me how, Michael pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. Tell me what I need to do. Sarah studied his face, seeing genuine remorse and a desperate desire for redemption etched in his features, a longing for connection that mirrored her own. Start small, she advised, her voice filled with a quiet wisdom. Be consistent. Show up when you say you will. Keep your promises. And understand that this is going to take time, a slow, deliberate process of rebuilding what was broken. The next week, they established a routine, a new rhythm to their lives, a blend of familiarity and cautious exploration. Michael would pick up Madison from school 3 days a week, help her with her homework, and take her to vocal lessons, supporting her passion and nurturing her talent. Weekends were designated as family time, sometimes all 3 of them together, exploring the city and creating new memories, sometimes just Michael and Madison, forging a bond through shared experiences. This is weird, but good weird, Madison confided to Mrs. Chun during one of their visits to the old neighborhood, seeking comfort and familiarity in the familiar surroundings. It's like having a daddy for the first time, even though he was always my daddy. How do you feel about that, little songbird? Mrs. Chun asked, her eyes filled with a gentle understanding. Madison thought carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration, trying to articulate the complex emotions that were swirling within her. Happy and sad and confused all at the same time, she said finally, her voice filled with honesty. Happy because he's really nice and he loves music like I do. Sad because we missed so much time all those years we could have been together. And confused because I don't know how to be someone's daughter when I've just been Mama's whole family for so long. Mrs. Chun nodded wisely, her eyes filled with compassion. Growing families is like growing gardens, she said, her voice soft and reassuring. Takes time, patience, and lots of care. But the beautiful things that grow are worth the wait. Meanwhile, Michael was learning that being a father was nothing like running a business empire. That the skills that had made him a success in the corporate world were of little use when it came to navigating the complexities of a child's heart. Madison didn't respond to commands or logical arguments. She needed patience, consistency, and unwavering emotional availability, a constant reassurance of his love and commitment. He was learning to listen, to empathize, to be present in the moment, to show up not just with his wallet, but with his heart. Things that didn't come naturally to him. I don't know what I'm doing, he confessed to Sarah one evening, the weight of fatherhood pressing down on him. When she cries, my instinct is to fix it, to make the sadness go away immediately. But you say sometimes she just needs to cry, to feel it. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. And when she's angry, I want to shower her with gifts, by her happiness. But you tell me that's not how emotions work. Sarah smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile, the first real one he'd seen from her since his return. Welcome to parenthood, Michael. It's a constant learning curve. She reached out and gently squeezed his hand. The fact that you're trying so hard, that you care so deeply, means you're already a better father than you think. She's incredible, Elena. You raised an amazing daughter. We made an amazing daughter, Sarah corrected gently, a hint of pride coloring her voice. She has your determination, your passion, and your innate musical sense. And, she added with a wry smile, she gets that stubborn streak from both of us. I want to be the father she deserves, he said, his voice filled with a quiet intensity. And then just love her, Michael. Unconditionally. Everything else, Sarah assured him, we can figure out together. The breakthrough, that crucial turning point, came 3 weeks later during one of Michael's regular visits. Madison was wrestling with a particularly difficult song, her small fingers stumbling over the chords, her brow furrowed in concentration. Frustration mounted with each failed attempt to reach the high notes. It's stupid, she finally declared, her voice thick with unshed tears, and she flung her guitar pick across the room, the small piece of plastic landing with a soft thud against the far wall. I can't do it. Instead of rushing in to fix the problem or offering technical solutions, as he might have done in the past, Michael did something different. He simply sat down beside her on the piano bench, closing the physical distance between them. You know what, Madison? He said softly, his voice calm and reassuring. Sometimes music is frustrating. Sometimes it just doesn't sound the way we want it to, no matter how hard we try. It fights us every step of the way. He paused, a nostalgic smile playing on his lips. Did that ever happen to you when you were little? All the time? I remember one time, I got so mad at a particularly difficult piano piece that I slammed my hands down on the keys in frustration, creating this awful cacophony of sound, and my teacher, he chuckled, made me sit in the corner as punishment. Madison giggled despite her frustration, her eyes widening with curiosity. Really? You did? Really? Michael confirmed with a wink. And you know what my teacher told me then? What? She said that music isn't about being perfect, Madison. It's not about hitting every note flawlessly. It's about feeling something real and raw, and sharing that feeling with other people. The notes matter, yes, but the heart matters even more. Madison leaned against his shoulder, a simple gesture of trust that spoke volumes, a sign that meant everything to Michael. Will you sing with me, Daddy, like you used to when I was little? Michael's throat closed with emotion, a lump forming that made it difficult to speak. He swallowed hard and managed to whisper, I would love to, sweetheart. Together, they began to sing, their voices tentatively joining in a familiar tune. You are my sunshine. The song filled the room, their voices blending in a fragile harmony that seemed to heal the wounds of years of separation. Sarah watched from the doorway, tears silently streaming down her face, her heart swelling with a mixture of hope and joy as her family finally began to sound like one. In that moment, standing there listening to his daughter's voice blend with his, Michael truly understood what he had lost 7 years ago, the precious bond he had carelessly broken, and what he was now lucky enough, blessed enough, to find again. Not just a daughter, but a reason to be. Not just success, but significance. A purpose that transcended fame and fortune. Music had brought them back together, but love, he knew, would be the force that kept them that way. 6 months after the finale, Madison River Sterling, now a vibrant young girl with a radiant smile, stood on the steps of Nashville Children's Hospital, a brand new guitar gleaming in her hands, ready to embark on a new chapter. Behind her stood her parents, Michael and Sarah, together, but taking things slow, rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of honesty and respect. A crowd of reporters gathered, their cameras flashing, eager to witness something extraordinary. Today, Madison announced to the cameras with newfound confidence, her voice ringing clear and strong. "We're starting the Sunshine Foundation. Every sick kid in this hospital, every child battling illness, gets free music lessons, and their families won't pay a penny." The $1 million prize money from the competition, combined with generous contributions from Michael, had made this dream a reality. But for Madison, it was about something far more profound than money. It was about using her gift, her talent, to heal others, to bring joy and comfort to those who needed it most, just the way music had healed her family. "Music saved my mama's life," she declared, her eyes shining with conviction. "And it brought my daddy home. Now it's going to help other families, too." Sarah stood beside her daughter, healthy and radiant. After months of successful treatment, the cancer was in remission. The threat had receded, and her hair was growing back in soft, natural curls, framing her face beautifully. She squeezed Michael's hand, not romantically, not yet, but as partners, as co-parents united in their love for their extraordinary daughter. "Are you proud of her?" a reporter asked Michael, pushing a microphone in his face. "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it," he replied, his voice thick with emotion, tears welling in his eyes. "She's taught me what it truly means to use success for something bigger than yourself, to give back, to make a real difference in the world." That evening, the Sterling Rivers family gathered in the music room of their new house. Not Michael's sprawling mansion, a symbol of his past excesses, and not their old cramped apartment, a reminder of their struggles, but something in between, a warm and inviting space, a place to build new memories while honoring their complicated past. "Play the song, Daddy," Madison requested, settling onto the piano bench beside him, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. Michael's fingers found the familiar chords, the muscle memory kicking in instantly, and together they began. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." Sarah joined them from her armchair, her voice blending with theirs in perfect harmony, completing the trio. This time the song carried a new weight, a deeper resonance, new layers of meaning, not just about love and loss, but about second chances, forgiveness, and the enduring power of family. "You make me happy when skies are gray." As they sang, Madison thought about the children she'd met at the hospital, the brave little warriors fighting battles far bigger than hers, finding solace and hope in music lessons, singing through their pain. Tomorrow, she'd return to teach them, to share her gift, because that's what her music was really for. "You'll never know, dear, how much I love you." Michael looked at his daughter and saw not just the baby he'd abandoned, the child he had failed, but the remarkable young woman she was becoming, her resilience, her compassion, her unwavering spirit. She had transformed their family's worst tragedy into something beautiful, something meaningful, a testament to the power of love and forgiveness. "Please don't take my sunshine away." When the song ended, they sat in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts, reflecting on the journey they had taken, the challenges they had overcome. "Daddy," Madison said quietly, breaking the silence, "do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't left us?" Michael considered the question carefully, weighing his words. Sometimes, yes, I do. But maybe everything happened the way it was supposed to, Madison. Maybe it was all part of a bigger plan. Maybe you needed to learn what really mattered, Sarah added gently, to understand what was truly important in life. And maybe you needed to be strong first, Madison chimed in, so you could help other people later. What about you, Mama? Do you forgive him? Madison asked, turning to her mother with an earnest gaze. Sarah looked at Michael, really looked at him, seeing not the man who had broken her heart, the man who had walked away, but the father who had found his way home, the man who was trying so hard to make amends. Forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once, Madison, she said softly. It's not a single event. It's something you choose every day, a conscious decision you make over and over again. She paused, then met Michael's gaze. And yes, Michael, I choose to forgive you. Not because what you did was okay, because it wasn't, but because holding on to anger, holding on to resentment was only hurting all of us. It was poisoning our family. I don't deserve either of you, Michael whispered, his voice thick with regret. No, you don't, Madison said with startling directness, her honesty disarming. But that's not how love works, Daddy. Love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to see the good in people, even when it's buried deep down, and helping them become better versions of themselves. Michael smiled, his heart overflowing with gratitude. When did you get so wise, Peanut? I learned from the best mama in the world, Madison replied with a mischievous grin. And now from a daddy who's trying really hard to make up for lost time. Later that night, after Madison had gone to bed, tucked in and dreaming peacefully, Michael and Sarah sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. The air was thick with the scent of honeysuckle and the sounds of crickets chirping. I have something to ask you, Michael said nervously, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Would you consider dating me? Like teenagers? Taking it slow, getting to know each other again, and seeing if we can fall in love again? Sarah smiled genuinely, a soft, radiant smile that reached her eyes, the first truly unguarded smile he'd seen from her since his return. I'd like that, Michael. I really would. She paused, then added with a playful glint in her eyes. But no expensive gifts. No trying to impress me with money. Just be yourself. Be honest. Be real. Michael chuckled. The real me is probably more boring than you remember. Good, Sarah said, leaning back against the swing, her voice filled with contentment. Boring sounds perfect right now. Inside, Madison lay in her new bedroom, surrounded by awards and flowers from fans all over the world, tokens of her success. But the item she treasured most was the framed photo on her nightstand. A picture of her parents at the hospital, beaming with pride as she announced the Sunshine Foundation. She picked up her phone and called Mrs. Chen, her wise and supportive music teacher. Hi, Mrs. Chen. It's me, Madison. Ah, little songbird. How did it go today? Perfect, Madison replied, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. We helped 20 kids today, and tomorrow we're helping 20 more. And Mrs. Chen, she added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. My parents are going to try dating again. Mrs. Chen chuckled knowingly. Ah, love finding its way back. It's a powerful force, Madison. It's not young love, Madison explained. It's old love getting a second chance. And I think second chances might be even better because now they know how precious it is, how easily it can be lost. And what are you teaching your students, little songbird? Mrs. Chen asked gently. Madison thought carefully for a moment. That music really can heal anything if you let it. And that families are about choosing to love each other every day, even when it's hard, even when you don't always agree. As Madison drifted off to sleep, she could hear her parents talking softly below, their voices a comforting murmur mixing with the familiar sounds of a Nashville summer night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to use her gift for good, to make a difference in the lives of others. But tonight, for the first time in her 7 years, Madison River Sterling fell asleep knowing, truly knowing, that her sunshine was safe. Her mother was healthy, her father was home, and their family, though imperfect, was finally complete. The The song that had brought them together would play in their hearts forever, a constant reminder of the power of love, loss, forgiveness, and the enduring truth that broken things can be made stronger, more beautiful, when pieced back together with hope. Madison had been right all along. Music really could heal anything, and sometimes the greatest performances happen not on a grand stage, under the bright lights, but in the quiet moments, in the intimate spaces of our lives, when a family chooses love over hurt, forgiveness over anger, and hope over fear. The end.